Welcome to The Explainer. So today we are diving into a really powerful memoir about a man who spent nearly 60 years basically at war with himself, and he had no idea why. It's an incredible story about confusion, about chaos, and about one single discovery that finally made it all make sense. The whole story really hangs on this one question that, let's be honest, most of us have probably asked ourselves. Why on earth did I do that? But just imagine that feeling defining your entire life. We're talking decades of confusion where your own actions feel like a complete mystery, even to you. The author, a man named Lazurus, he describes his life as being defined by this really deep, painful conflict, just a constant internal battle that nobody, and especially not him, could ever figure out. See, on one hand, he knew, deep down, that he was a gentle soul. He knew he was filled with love. But that gentle soul was trapped. Because he couldn't process the hurt he was experiencing, his life was just marked by this explosive anger and violence. He would return any pain he thought was coming his way with just overwhelming force. And this wasn't just some feeling he had on the inside. It played out in every single part of his life. We're talking countless fights as a kid, all the way to really destructive relationships as an adult. This pattern of turmoil just followed him everywhere. For decades, absolutely nothing made sense. He describes it as feeling like a square peg in a round hole, just constantly trying to solve the puzzle of his own life, but with crucial pieces missing. And then, at 58 years old, a diagnosis finally gave him the key that would unlock his entire past. That missing piece, the key that unlocked the puzzle of his entire life, was a diagnosis he received at 58, ADHD. So what in the world is ADHD? Well, it's a term that's really used in neurodivergent communities. It describes this unique blend of traits from both autism, which can affect social stuff and how you process senses, and ADHD, which brings challenges with things like attention and impulsivity. And when you actually look at these common traits, you start to see how they explain so much of his past. The trouble with social cues, feeling totally overwhelmed in a crowded place, the impulsive actions, those super intense emotional reactions. All of a sudden, there was a reason for them. And just like that, a whole lifetime of confusing, often shameful moments, they just started to click into place. These weren't character flaws. They were signs of an undiagnosed neurological condition. This new understanding allowed him to go back and revisit his most painful memories. He could finally reframe them, not as excuses, but as actual explanations for why he behaved the way he did. And this right here is such a powerful example of that reframing. He remembers how just locking eyes with someone could trigger this massive paranoid feeling that almost always ended in a fight. What looked like unprovoked aggression from the outside was actually a neurological reaction to misinterpreted social cues and sensory overload. And this new perspective didn't just apply to violence. It also explained his vulnerability in toxic relationships. He talks about believing a partner loved him just because she said, "I love you," even when her actions were incredibly hurtful. That wasn't him being foolish. It was a common autistic trait of taking language literally, completely missing the manipulation behind the words. Now, the author makes it really clear that this journey of understanding isn't some easy way out. It's a really difficult, honest confrontation with his own past. But now he's armed with a new context that allows for real reflection and, for the first time, true self-understanding. But this newfound understanding wasn't just about making sense of the past. It was about building a whole new future. It completely transformed a life of chaos into one with real purpose. So now he's channeling all of those unique life experiences into this really clear, powerful mission. He's training to become a hypnotherapist to help people with gambling issues, and he plans to launch organizations to support others who are facing similar struggles, both with addiction and neurodivergence. Honestly, this short explainer, we've only just scratched the surface of what is a really complex and deeply human story. The few aha moments we've shared are just a tiny fraction of a memoir that is filled with this raw honesty that's both tough to read and incredibly inspiring. It's a journey through the rave scene, through violent fights, toxic love, and finally to a place of peace and purpose. The complete story is waiting for you in the pages of I'm Not That, Is That Me? It's so much more than just one man's story. It's a powerful look at what happens when the person you thought you were finally meets the person you truly are.